Hello, hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back. Or should I say, welcoming myself back? It has been a while since I have been here. I needed to take a break for some time and I think, like everybody else out there, there has been some crazy energies going on since the start of the year. And I just needed to take some time to go inwards and just figure out where I was going and whether these messages were in fact actually useful to people out there. But after having conversated with a few people who reached out asking where I was and if I was coming back, I had to really think about it. But in light of all the things that have been happening in Kenya and just feeling so saddened by all the lives that were lost over the past few days has just honestly had me so heartbroken. I had the pleasure of being in Nairobi during the course of last week when everything was taking place, and even at the start of this week. And since getting back to my little village here, I was just feeling so much sadness and so much grief, and just as much as it is beautiful to see what is happening in Kenya, as much as it is beautiful to see what these Gen Zs have been up to and the revolution that is taking place, which is just so glorious. And I think nobody really expected this to happen. And it has kind of come out of surprise, as I know for a fact that so many people of us here in Kenya have just been feeling so depleted by life and what is going on. But interestingly enough, as I talk to friends and families in other countries, I'm hearing the same information, and it seems that the agenda of the New World Order and Agenda 2030 and the UN sustainability goals, well, we are seeing them being implemented across the board. And it is beautiful to see how Kenya has come out in such large numbers to stop this coming into the African continent, because really we just have to say things as they are. And Kenya is one of the gateways for the New World Order to enter into the African continent. And we know now that what is happening in the world is that, well, this is the second scramble for Africa, and we are simply seeing history repeating itself. And as we know, and as I've said previously, it is so important that we educate ourselves. But it is so sad to see the mass censoring that is happening across the board. And people can continue to say that all the things that are happening in the world are still conspiracy theories. And these are no longer theories, these are 100% facts. And for me, who has been a researcher of truth for many, many years now, it is crazy to see how so many things are being scrubbed off the internet, so that for those people who do actually want to go out there and educate themselves about the realities of the world we live in, well, it is proving more and more difficult for people to find information because the censoring is happening across the board. And so I really, really hope that this message gets out there far and wide, and that, one of the reasons I also decided to stop doing videos was because of all the censoring that I was going through. And it was just very, very frustrating. But, as we are all going through our own hardships and challenges and figuring out our path in this life, I realized that mine really was to share messages of guidance with the collective. And so what has brought me back onto this videos is that today I share a message for Kenya. What is really going on? It's interesting, the other day I was scrolling through TikTok and came across an interesting video of a guy. Apologies for the noise there, the monkeys are out. And so what this video was saying is he was showing the astrology for Kenya. And it was interesting. I'd never really looked into Kenya's astrology, but from the little that I saw, please excuse the noise, I do apologize. But what he was saying was that Kenya was going through a major time of revolution, and that this was kind of actually included in her birth chart. And, many people have been saying, well, not many, but Dr. Mumbu, who some of you probably listen to, has been saying for many years that Kenya was going to be the seat of the spiritual revival. And for many years, I really believed that and felt that inherently. And I think that we are seeing her prophecy come to pass. And so it is incredible to see that these changes are happening. And they say that, Eastern Africa and Kenya was the birthplace of Kenya. Ethiopia was the birthplace of humanity. And, right now there's so much information. What we can say for a fact is that so much of the information about Africa, and specifically Kenya, has been completely eradicated, that we don't know our history. And for those of us who are not educated, then we allow history to repeat itself. But one message that I received with complete clarity in 2020 at the start of the pandemic was that it is always darkest before the dawn and Africa rising. And the message that I received very, very clearly at that time was that Africa would lead the way and that Africa would teach many, many people. But for some weird reason, Kenya seems to be one of the core places of this. And another interesting video that I saw some time back was an African American woman who was, one of the original um, people of Israel. And she was showing, if you look at the map of Africa, it basically looks like a woman's head, but from the side of the profile. And if you look to where Lake Victoria is, they were showing that that was the eye of the woman, and that the eye of this woman was looking directly at Mount Kenya, at Mount Zion. And so we know for a fact that Kenya plays a major role in whatever is coming to pass. And so I'm very excited to share the messages that the cards have to share with us today, because there is something massive that is happening in Kenya, and there is something that massive that is happening across the globe. But it is interesting to see that, over the past few years since 2020, that when Kenya is in the news, the whole world is looking at Kenya, and it is incredible to see just the unity with which Kenyans have come out to support each other, not only in Kenya itself but also across the globe. And so I am just so proud to be able to be in Kenya at this time and to be connected with everything that is happening at this time, because it is truly awakening people to so many things, and it is awakening people, reminding people that there is so much more in the world, and that our voices do have power, and that each and every one of us does hold power. And so even for those of you who weren't able to go and physically protest, but just your thoughts alone, your prayers, are having way more power than we realize, and every single person has a part to play in what is taking place. Some of us are engaging with it and on a more physical reality, and some of us are engaging with it on a more spiritual reality. But remembering, beautiful souls, that the Bible itself says that we are not fighting against flesh and blood, but against principalities of a higher nature. And so whether people want to believe it or not, there is dark magic that has been being used at the highest levels of society. And this is not only in Kenya, but across the board, because, really we're all under some major form of hypnosis. And the Mayans spoke about it. They talk about Maya, or the veil of illusion. And they talked about in 2012 that their calendar was ending. But if we go according to the Ethiopian calendar, it shows that in 2020, we were actually in 2012. And so the Mayan calendar ended in 2012, and really the reason it ended was because they just didn't know what was going to come next. They knew that something was going to shift, but really nobody knew. And there has been a lot of talk, and we say now, well, we're not yet in the age of Aquarius, as Pluto will be circling back to Capricorn before coming back into Aquarius, and that is when we will fully be back in the age of Aquarius. But there has been, as this is the time of information, the time of technology, and also realizing that Aquarius is dominated by the planet Uranus. Uranus, which has a very important presence in Kenya's astrological chart. But Uranus basically is the archetype of Uranus is kind of like the inventor, somebody who goes outside of the box and creates something new. And what we see happening in Kenya is something that nobody expected to see. This has never been done before. And we are truly seeing history in the making. And this time, history is going to be written by the Africans. It is not going to be written by the foreigners. And so it is truly an incredible time to be an African at this time, And for me, who is blessed to be both African and both European, I have the privilege of tapping into the energies on both continents. And it is incredible to see what is happening, but especially here on the African continent. And so I just want to remind you, beautiful souls, that if you are a Kenyan, and even if you're not a Kenyan, but if you are somebody who is in Kenya, because I don't think that you should only be a Kenyan who is protesting, because these changes are coming to affect every single human being. And the thing is, yes, it's rolling out across the board in some countries faster than others, but really, some countries it's incredible. I was speaking to a woman from Turkey the other day who said that these same rules, basically these same new laws were implemented in Turkey, and nobody did anything. So the fact that here in Kenya we are fighting against this, we are not only fighting for Kenya, but we are fighting for the whole world. And so there is something very powerful that is happening at this time. And it is interesting for me, who has not done these videos in a while, but I am feeling my solar plexus chakra activating so powerfully. I am feeling so much energy coming in. And this is showing that the will, remember that 2024 is an 8 year. It is also the year of the dragon. The 8 is the number of will and power. It is the number of personal power, which is deeply associated with the solar plexus chakra. The dragon is related to fire energy. The 8 and the solar plexus are also related to fire energy. And this is what we are seeing. The fire, the Hopi prophecy. If you look back to one of my previous videos, I actually go quite in depth into the Hopi prophecy and how they talk about the blue star Kachina and the red star Kachina. And this is also what we saw during the April 8th eclipse, where they talked about the power of water and fire coming in. Earlier this year in Kenya, we saw the floods coming in. This was a massive, massive test for the Kenyan people. And because many people prayed and because many people turned to their spirituality, and, you know, I have to remind people here that religion has been the biggest issue with the world, because religion has been an indoctrination of beliefs and ideological systems. And if we look back as far back as we remember across the history of the earth, what has been there? There has been war. And the war has been what on what? The war has been on ideology and on beliefs. And so it is unfortunate to say that the majority of people who have been going through and following Abrahamic religions and going through this indoctrination, not questioning properly, you have been being indoctrinated into a certain set of beliefs that is pushing you to follow the Luciferian system that we have been living in for thousands and thousands of years. And so, what is happening at this time is that people are being awakened, people are being activated. The veil of illusion, the spell of hypnotism is being removed from the eyes of many so that they can finally see that we have been living in a deeply satanic and Luciferian system. And this is why in some of my previous videos I had said you must choose a side, because there is no longer neutrality. Just like Switzerland portrays to be super neutral, and yet that is complete and utter bullshit. Because remember, they use magic. And what is magic all about? Magic is about deception. Magic is about, I deceive you by making you believe that something is going on over here whilst I'm busy doing something over here, but you're paying attention to what's going on here, so you can't see what's going on there. And this has been the basis of the entire system in which we live. And so when people say no, I no longer abide by the system, I no longer wish to be a party to the system, I call my energy and power back from the system. Because what most people don't realize is that by engaging in the system, they are actively allowing their energy to be used in massive dark magic rituals. And, you know, it's interesting because so many people said that I shouldn't talk about the dark, but yet now the more I talk about this, and actually as I'm on this video here, I realize that the reason I am here is to highlight the darkness that people cannot see because there is a veil. Remember, we have 3 eyes. We are first spiritual beings and then physical beings. Our spiritual essence is what activates this physical body. And so our first eye, many people talk about it as the third eye, but I refer to it as the first eye because first we are spiritual. But if our first eye is blocked, we can only see what is happening in the physical world. And remember, this physical world is dominated by something in a higher dimension, something in the intangible world. Remember, what gives this body action is something that is intangible. First comes thought, something that we cannot see, but it is thought that creates this entire reality that we see. Remember, our thoughts create our reality because our thoughts create the way we look at the world, and therefore our thoughts create the behavior or the actions that we take in the world. And so slowly we are starting to wake up to the reality that we have all been lied to, we have been deceived because our first eye has been closed so that we cannot see. And this is why when we talk about having discernment, discernment is is an energetic thing. Discernment is a spiritual thing, because deep within our spirit, we know what is right and wrong. Even a baby that is born knows what is right and wrong. We know deeply within the core of our soul what is right and wrong. And what this entire system and foundation has been about switching, has been about turning everything upside down. Really, the series Stranger Things is the best series to portray what has happened in our world. We have been deceived to think what is good is bad and what is bad is good. But people have woken up, and this is the beauty of Gen Z, because Gen Zers, they have not been brainwashed for as long as older people. They can see more clearly through the veil of illusion, and they are no longer willing to accept the lies and the deception that we have all been sold. And the reason why we have all bought it is because we have all been asleep. We have been walking around in a state of hypnotism where we can't really see, where we can be controlled, and everything is controlling us, where we don't even realize that we are being controlled. And this is what is happening, the Great Awakening. Many millions of people are waking up. But Africa rising are the words that I heard, because the people who have been deceived the most are the melanated. Those with the most melanin are the most powerful. If you go and research across the internet, one of the most expensive, I don't even know what you would call it, elements, commodities that you can buy today is melanin. Think about that. Melanin. Where does melanin come from other than a human being, other than a black or brown human being? So the whole system is built on the backs of the Africans and the melanated people. And so the more we wake up and realize that we will no longer be at the bottom of the food chain. And you know, it is, being someone who is half African, half European, I experience this every single day. I experience my white privilege every single day, because as much as I'm not treated like a white person, I'm definitely treated better than my black friends. And so, you know, I don't want to make this video too much about me, but just to realize that race has been such a mechanism of control, and it's just another form of divide and conquer. But when we, those who are not melanated, wake up to the plight of the melanated and accept the Africans and the fully melanated have been completely corrupted, and this entire system has been built upon them. And if we refuse to see that, then we are actively accepting the fact that we can accept that some people are less than, and that is just not acceptable. So let's see what the cards have to say. So interestingly, the first card that came up was Thoth Light Codes. And I recently went through a hypnotic journey where I was supposed to go into a past life, but rather than going into a past life, I somehow connected with the Andromedan Spiritual Council of Light. Now, the Andromedans come from the 12th dimension and above. And what they were saying was that the emerald tablets of Thoth, which were written by Thoth or Hermes or whatever you want to call him, who was the god of wisdom and the god of magic, and he wrote tablets on emerald. I don't know how far back this was. This was thousands and thousands of years ago, before the fall of Atlantis. And he oh gosh, I forgot my, oh yes. And so so in the hypnotic journey, basically what was being said was that these messages that he had written back then were so relevant to this time now. And so I went back and read these tablets after not having read them for a few years. And so me, who's been continually diving deep and looking for truth in all aspects, have come to see just how much magic plays such a massive role in this system. And this is exactly what he was talking about. He was referring to the Dark Brotherhood. And this is, you know, many people might have heard of. Basically, I have to be careful of what I say on here, but there are many secret societies, and these secret societies are who govern the world. And these secret societies are operating with knowledge that has not been passed down to the rest of the people. And this is spiritual knowledge. And so they understand, or should I say they overstand, that the way this physical reality is controlled is through higher dimensional planes. And so they are using massive rituals And the more people engage in these rituals, and the worst thing is that most people don't even realize, but the easiest way that I can explain this is this: in movies. In movies, they use certain symbols that give you information that you don't realize, that these symbols are basically in magic what they call sigils. And sigils are magic symbols that are infused with power. And the more people see these sigils, the more these sigils are powered. It's almost like these sigils are like a charging a battery pack, and the more people look at it, the more the battery pack charges. And so the more they use these sigils within their magic, the more their ritual grows in energy. And this is happening on so many different levels, from the music we listen to the food that we eat. This is happening on such a large scale. But so the fact that Thoth is coming here, and remember that all the countries that were colonized, especially the countries that were colonized by the British, because they go so deeply into Freemasonry, this country was built on Freemasonic magic. And so the fact that the first card here says Thoth light codes, light initiation, great teacher awakening, divine magic. This is what is happening. We are starting to awaken, because during the times of colonization, also massive rituals were created and dark altars were set up in this place, which would keep the people of Kenya under a hypnotic spell. And so what is happening is that all of these spells are starting to break. We are starting to awaken to the magic that has been used, but also to the divine magic within. And so Thoth, who we see very, very widely presented in Egyptian mythology. And so we are being told here that we are being initiated into new light codes, because also there's so much information. I'm going to try not to make this too long, but I will unpack this in future videos now that I am back here. But essentially, because of the changes that are happening astrologically, and this is how the Mayans knew that something was coming to shift, that there would be a shift in energy. And as we are seeing Sirius get closer to our sun, we are awakening in consciousness. And this is what Thoth represents, because a lot of people misunderstand that a lot of what is spoken about in the Bible is actually astrology. And so we are being awakened to a lot of the things that our first spiritual eye had been completely veiled to, and especially for the African people, because it's just proven that the more melanin you have, the more active your pineal gland, and therefore the more spiritual you are. And so really, the darker your skin and the more melanin you have, the more powerful you are on a spiritual level. And this is why the powers that were have been trying to keep the melanated dumbed down and just oppressed for as long as they have. The next card we have is Venusian Galactic Council. Star being guides, answer the call, time to shine. And look at how we come from darkness into light. And so many of the Gen Zs and the millennials and so many more of the people within Kenya have heard the call. This was a spiritual call, because the way the energy just amplified out of nowhere was just absolutely crazy. I don't think anyone expected this to happen the way it did, but really people heard the call, and the way people came out in the millions. And we have to keep going with this energy. We cannot let this momentum die down, because this is a spiritual call. And these are things that have been activating since the floods, and even since before the floods. But the floods were a massive test. It was a test for people to awaken, to see that there was something so much larger that was going on, and that we are all a part of it. But we can choose to consciously be a part of it from a place of the light, or we can choose to ignore it and continue to allow deception and darkness to pervade this world. The next card we have is Star Being Healing Codes. Important information. Wounds are healed. Recharging. And look at this card again, more light. It's like the power. Really, when I look at this card overlooking the earth, this makes me think of Sirius energy, the star, which really heightens consciousness on the planet. And it's like Sirius is bringing their light codes down onto the earth, so that we may finally awaken and remember who we are. And yes, wounds are healed. This is why, as so many people have been doing their work, their internal work, their healing work. And as a result of this is why we are seeing more people being able to come together, because the more individuals heal, the more we can come together as a collective. And so we really are healing our wounds, especially of the African continent, of the melanated, because these wounds, we haven't had the place nor the space to be able to communicate about these things. And yet we have been carrying this wounding within our DNA and our cellular construct for thousands of years. And with these energetic shifts and with these astrological shifts, this is what we are seeing. We are being awakened to the knowledge that has been lying within us. Our dormant strands of DNA are literally being activated. And so, as they say that we are going through the pole shifts where north is going south and south is going north, this is the way it was always meant to be. If you look at ancient maps, when we look at the maps today, we're actually reading them the wrong side up. And so this is why when you go to Egypt, they talk about Upper Egypt being in the south and Lower Egypt being in the north, because they actually are still operating from the previous maps. And so this is what has happened because of the magic that has been used, because of the magic that was used. And really we're talking about magic that is so much bigger than, we're talking about galactic magic, we're talking about cosmic magic, not the small magic that we see on TV. We're talking about massive, just like this being is bigger than the planet. This being, there are massive beings that have been using magic against our planets. And so this is what we are being reawakened to. And so, interestingly enough, that the moon is the next card that we have. And the moon really, now I'm going to go really out there, and some people might think that I'm completely crazy, but that's okay. But they say that the moon was a massive construct that was used to shift the vibrational frequency of the earth and therefore shift her on her axes. Therefore, changing the vibrational frequency of the earth and therefore changing the way the earth is supposed to work. Remember, the earth was the Garden of Eden, was the Garden of Eden within the cosmos. And when the moon was constructed, this was what came to create a whole shift within the vibrational frequency of the earth herself and therefore her inhabitants. Now, the message here says, take note of intuitive messages, because yes, the moon does bring new messages because of the shifts within the vibrational frequency when she is full versus when she is new. But so the earth is coming back onto her axes, where Africa will be on top again, where, because at the end of the day, there is so much knowledge here. And the reason why, when we look back across the history of the world, there is so much that doesn't make sense. And the reason for that is because so much information sits here on the African continent, and that has been eradicated. But that knowledge lives within our DNA, and that is what is being activated at this time. So if you are getting any kind of intuitive messages, and I can tell you this, that the more melanated you are, the more intuitive you are. That is just a given. Not to say that people who don't have melanin are not intuitive. We are all intuitive. But it is remembering that African spirituality is not connected to the Bible. African spirituality is connected to the earth, because this is our birthplace. This is where we come from. And so our connection to the earth is so important. And that is why so many things within African spirituality were called, witchcraft. But it is really just about working with the natural elements of the earth. There is nothing wrong with that. It is the most natural thing to do, because we are working with nature, which is natural. And interesting that the next card we have here is Druid in nature. The ancient Celts were also very much connected to nature. And this is what they talk about Gnosticism before Jesus Christ Christianity. There was an original form of Christianity which really was about connecting to the earth. And so the Celtics and the Africans, not so different in terms of their spiritual beliefs, not so different. At one time, everyone believed the same thing. The original people of Earth believed the same thing. But over the centuries and over millennia, we have It's like broken telephone or Chinese whispers, or that game where over time the information gets distorted. But now we are coming back to that ancient knowledge. We are coming back to being one with nature, being one with the planet, being one with the cosmos, being one with each other. And that is really what we are seeing here in Kenya, is as this unity has continued to bring people together, look at what is possible. If people across Africa came together and just got their shit together and realized their spiritual power, they would realize that Africa, we could all wake up tomorrow and everything could be different, because that is the power of spirituality. The spirit that lives within you, the spirit of your ancestors who fought for this land, resides within you. And that is what we are seeing, this answer the call. People heard the call. People heard that their ancestors were calling them and telling them, this is your time. This is the time that we can channel through you and give you the power, give you the strength, and give them the wisdom that you need to keep moving forward. Interesting, the next card we have is Warrior. You are a warrior, but first and foremost, you are a spiritual warrior. Be fearless and stand strong. Your voice matters. Your energy matters. Even if you're not going there and protesting, as long as you are protesting with your intention and your energy and saying, I will no longer accept the state of being as they are. I will no longer accept for things to go on as they are. You have to take a stand. And by simply saying, I reject, by simply saying, Ruto must go, we are saying that all the other Rutos in this world, all the puppets in this world must go. The next card we have is Earth Guardian. Stay rooted and grounded. Again, coming back to the earth, staying connected to your spirit. The earth, the green also connects to heart chakra energy. And interesting enough, they say that the earth is the heart chakra of the cosmos. And so this is why they are fighting, because when you get to the heart, when you break someone's spirit, they can no longer stand up. But this is why the human beings are so important, because we, the human beings who have such deep spiritual power as well as such deep emotional power, we comprehend love better than any other being. Because us here on this physical reality, on this dense 3D difficult world, if we can experience love in this place, think about the power that you hold. So when you stay in your heart and you stay rooted and you stay grounded to the power of your heart, to the power of nature, to the power of Mother Earth, then you are able to shift things in such deep ways, because so long as you are aligned to the frequency of nature and this planet, our home, then you are attuned to the frequency of love. And so stay rooted in your power, stay rooted in your rejection, because we have to keep fighting. There is no other way. And the thing is, the spirits are working alongside us now. There is no stopping this power. There is no stopping this energy. Something big is building, and you can either be a part of it or you can stand aside and get washed down. So the next card we have is interesting. The number is 54, coming down to a 9. The 9 being the number of completion. The card is square, semi-square quincunx, and that relates to tension. So you see here two birds flying into each other, and for some weird reason this is making me think of the angels. So as I see the number 9 here and I see these angels, it makes me think of there is a new spirit that is fighting by our sides. But yes, there is tension, because I can't remember where I read this or heard this, but they say power is never given, it is taken. And yes, in this sense, we have to take it from those people who took it away from we, the people. We have to take it back. And so I just want to read to you here what it says about the square, semi-square quincunx. So this is an astrological placement that relates to tension. So it says here, these 3 aspects are awkward, potentially confrontational, and urge us to grow as we reconcile disparate points of view. Well, yeah, we're certainly seeing that we, the people, hold a very disparate point of view from the government at this point in time. Square aspects act as if two horses are pulling at right angles, or two cars are colliding at a crossroads. Needs collide and tension pulls between different priorities within or without. A square is formed by two planets that are 90 degrees apart and in the same modality. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read that. So, action. Life is a workout. This phase needs juggling, muscle building, and the careful coordination of competing needs. You may feel pulled between one path or another and pushed to make a decision. But with some fancy timing and rhythm, you will be able to do it all. Yes, there is something working through us. And the more you believe in your power and the more you open yourself up for this power to move through you, the more you welcome this power into you. So, working with people who have diverse mindsets, skills, and backgrounds can be challenging, but in the long run, these collaborations prove most productive and enriching. Find points of ease, the few things everybody agrees on already, and build out from there. Honor difference and expand. Let the situation become a mandala created by the interlacing elements that at first glance may not look like they go together. These apparently clashing pieces can round each other out and create a beautiful symbol of wholeness. Take this image into your psyche and use it as a pattern for interaction. These tense aspects take work, but don't avoid it. If you take a hatching baby bird out of its egg so it doesn't have to struggle, it won't build the strength needed to survive. A butterfly needs to struggle, coming out of the cocoon in order to have circulation in its wings to fly. This situation builds your strength. Get ready to fly. And I hear the rain about to start pouring as I was reading this. So something big is coming. The rain is the confirmation. I'm just going to pull you in so you can keep hearing me. So, yes, there is tension building, but this tension is leading to something powerful. We are taking power back. Confirmation that the rain is here. And remember, they say that the ancestors travel through the water. So it seems that the ancestors are confirming the messages that I'm sharing. The next card we have is the rainbow. Sweet relief, new beginnings, a new way forward. And look at the beautiful colors here. Look at all this ethereal shimmer sort of, we're entering into a new dimension. You can see how there is a lady sort of awakening within the midst of this new kind of energy. Something is being birthed, something powerful, something beautiful, something angelic is being birthed. We are, as much as there is tension, this tension is leading to something beautiful. And just as the message that I received, it is always darkest before the dawn. That is what we are experiencing. But the more of us that are in our spiritual power hold this power and continue to hold light in our hearts for this energy to come through. This is what we are anchoring. The more of us that are protesting the old world, the more of us are anchoring this new energy into this world at this time. The next card we have is Ride the Waves. Life lessons and growth. You will get through this. Yes. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And so, us here in Kenya, would we have expected the unity to happen this quickly? Nobody expected what is happening to happen. It is truly a miracle what we are seeing. And so, you can either ride the wave or you can get drowned by the wave. The choice is really entirely yours. Messages from the angels to end here. The card we have is Dreams of Abundance. As you sleep, God, your angels, and your higher self are giving you divinely guided ideas, answers, and solutions. Be sure to record your dreams in a journal because they contain valuable insights that will help you manifest your desires into reality. And really, all of us who are fighting this finance bill, and obviously now we're past that finance bill, but all of us who are fighting this at this time, we have a dream for a different Kenya. We have a dream for a different Africa. We have a dream for a different world. And so whatever messages you are getting in your dreams, because the dream world is a different space. The dream world is a spiritual space. And so the more we question, how can we help in anchoring in the changes that are coming, the changes for good that we have all been waiting for? When we question and we pray and we meditate and we ask for answers, the answers come. They come in many different ways, but all you have to do is you have to open up and you have to allow these answers to come through. And you have to trust that these messages that are coming through are right and that they have guidance for you. And sometimes they don't make sense, but the more we kind of sit on them and the more that we trust them and the more that we hold the space and the more that we are in our heart and we are rooted and grounded, the more these messages come in. And so last but not least, to finish off this message, we have detox your friendships. And this makes me think of how the Kenyan people are detoxing their friendship with the government. So it says your abundance flow is being affected by the people with whom you're spending time. So be discerning about your associations and relationships. Choose to be with people who are inspiring, generous, and supportive. And I want to take this outside of just people, but in everything that we are engaging with. Which celebrities do we engage with? Which politicians do we engage with? Which companies do we engage with? We need to start asking. We need to start going deeper. We can't just accept something on the surface, but now we have to ask, what does this person really believe? What is the foundation of this company? Are they ethical? Do they have the best intentions at heart? Just like what we're doing with the government today, we have to start doing this across the board, because the reason that the world has become so polluted is because of all the things that we, the people, have accepted. We have, and this is no one's fault, but at the same time everyone's fault, because yes, we have been kept in a state of survival, and when we are in a state of survival, it is really difficult for us to see clearly and to think clearly. But now we have to start asking the bigger questions. How can we start to change? Because we have to change across the board, and we are all part of the change. We are all part of anchoring in the new change, the new beginnings. We all have power and we all have a voice. So use your voice widely, use your voice with strength, and believe in your voice. Peace and power to you all. And I wish you the best of luck. Keep fighting, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye for now.